My brother spent all my mother's savings on women of easy behavior. May 12th, San Diego, California. Imagine this. Waking up to the piercing sound of your mother's scream. A scream that sounds as though her heart is shattering into a million pieces. I remember that morning as if it were yesterday. The sun was just rising over our small home in southern San Diego. But that day, the warmth brought no comfort, and none of us felt at ease in our familiar city. Instead, I watched as our kitchen transformed into a battlefield where my mother, Mary, was hunched over bank statements, her hands trembling so much that the papers nearly slipped from her grasp. "Jake, it's all gone," she finally choked out. Her voice broke as she spoke those words. Every dollar she had saved over the last 10 years of hard work, working days at the factory and nights at the laundromat, all so my brother and I might have a better future, was gone. My heart sank deep into my chest. Step into my life. I'm Jake, 27, the eldest son who never thought our family would face such hell. As I looked at my mother, I couldn't shake the feeling of complete failure. Do you know the pain of seeing someone you love suffer, feeling helpless to make it better? That's how I'd felt for years now. Life had knocked me down over and over. My job at the auto shop paid only minimum wage, barely enough to cover rent on our apartment. And now this, my mom, the woman who raised us, shattered, confused, and penniless. And the one responsible was someone I once remembered as a little boy with bright brown eyes and a smile that could melt anyone's heart, my younger brother Travis. But now, this same Travis had betrayed us. He had taken her money to splurge on luxury and wild nights in Vegas. I wanted to scream, to run outside and yell at the world. I felt crushed, broken by the weight of responsibility and injustice. But I couldn't afford to be weak. I had to act. As my mother sat, hunched over the papers, silently sobbing, a fierce anger ignited inside me, burning so intensely it felt like it might consume everything around me. I knew Travis had to answer for this. How? I had no idea, but one thing was clear. He had crossed a line that could never be forgiven. I had no choice now but to step into this fight. Reddit comments, Bexy Blue. What a story. I feel your pain. I grew up in a family where money was vital for survival. What your brother did isn't just betrayal, it's the destruction of family trust. I can't imagine seeing my mom in such a state. I hope you find a way to hold him accountable. Barrage Mechanic 23. Jake, your words really hit home. I work as a mechanic, and I understand how hard it is to make ends meet. Bad things always seem to happen to good people, and your story is just another proof of that. I'm rooting for you to find justice. Wiseowl 101. Listen, you're strong for enduring all this. It's amazing that you're standing by your mom. What your brother did is unacceptable. I hope things get better, but honestly, I'd love to see Travis get what he deserves. 2 days had passed since that horrible morning when we discovered Travis's betrayal, but time felt frozen. I couldn't gather my thoughts. My mother's sobbing echoed in my mind, like an endless sound tearing me apart. The problem we faced was simple but devastating. We were nearly out of money, and rent on our $1,500 a month home in the lower part of San Diego was coming up fast. Our pantry had only a few cans of beans and a box of pasta left. I sat on my old bed with its worn-out springs, wondering why life was so cruel to us. I had worked at the auto shop for 5 years, earning a meager $16 an hour, barely enough to pay the bills and keep us afloat. Imagine waking up every day at 6 in the morning, working with hands that always smell of grease, only to come home and see everything falling apart before your eyes. I tried so hard, but life just kept knocking me down. What hurt me most was that this betrayal came from my own blood, my brother, who did this terrible thing. I kept thinking of us as kids, riding our bikes along the La Jolla boardwalk, racing each other. Back then, he was a carefree boy, and I never could have imagined he would hurt our mom this way. But what happened to that boy? How did he turn into a selfish jerk who burned all bridges for his own pleasure? It was eating me alive. I felt powerless, and that helplessness gnawed at me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Travis's face, smiling in the luxury of Las Vegas casinos, spending mom's money on expensive drinks and women who didn't even know his real name. And mom? She sat at home, staring out the window, as if hoping she'd wake up and this would all be a nightmare. She could barely sleep anymore, pacing the house at night, swallowing her tears so she wouldn't wake me. I was tormented by a dilemma. I had to do something, but how? I had no plan, only the pain and anger boiling inside, like a storm raging in my chest. I wanted to scream, to make the world feel my fury. But deep down, I knew, the only thing keeping me going was the need to protect my mom. She was my last pillar, the one person who never gave up, even when everything around us was falling apart. And now, she had lost almost everything. I couldn't let her down. Reddit comments, Lost Hope 99. Jake, your words cut me to the bone. I know what it's like to fight through endless problems and losses. The feeling of helplessness is something many of us understand. You're strong for fighting for your mom. Hang in there. Mechanic Mike 2021. $16 an hour? Damn, I work at a garage too, so I know how hard it is. I feel your anger and despair. It's impressive that you haven't broken down, man. I hope you find a way to hold your brother accountable. Dreams are free 17. It's terrible when your own family betrays you. I lost faith in my family years ago over a similar situation. Your story is a reminder of how important it is to hold onto those who truly love us. I hope you find a solution. After long nights of planning and endless hours of soul-searching, Alex, my best friend and the only person standing by me in this fight, and I finally left San Diego. We set off for Las Vegas, the place where Travis was now, celebrating his new life. The drive took 5.5 hours, but it felt like an eternity. We took the I-15, and I couldn't stop thinking about everything that had happened. The desert scenery passing by the windows seemed to mirror my feelings, emptiness, despair, and a searing, burning anger that tore at me from within. When we arrived in Vegas, we were greeted by flashing neon signs inviting people to experience the joy of life, slogans that felt as empty as Travis's promises. We booked a cheap motel room on the edge of the city for $45 a night. It was only a few miles from the main strip, but for me, it symbolized how far we had fallen. I couldn't afford any luxury while my brother burned through our family's savings on $300 bottles of champagne and the finest casino lounges. That night, I stood by the window of our dingy motel, looking out at the city lights. They were beautiful, alluring, but it was all an illusion, masking an emptiness underneath. Alex was at his laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard as he put the finishing touches on our plan. He had managed to gain access to the security cameras in one of the clubs where, as we'd learned, Travis spent most of his nights. The cameras showed scenes of crowded dance floors and women in glittering dresses laughing by the bar. And there, in the middle of it all, I saw my brother. My heart seemed to stop. Travis looked carefree and happy, holding a bottle of champagne, surrounded by people who clearly only valued him for his money. This was a terrible reality I couldn't escape. He, the very brother I had once promised to protect, was now the enemy of our family. He laughed as if life were perfect, while our mother cried herself to sleep in a dark house back home. But the worst part was yet to come. Alex had finally uncovered just how much money Travis had burned through. It was an astronomical sum, nearly $80,000 in 3 weeks. All spent on fake friendships, women who didn't even know his real name, and luxuries that lasted only until the next morning. I felt as if my heart were being torn to pieces. How could he be so irresponsible, so selfish? I clenched my fists, feeling anger bubbling up once again. But we had to do something. We developed a plan. We were going to strike back, to make him feel the shame we felt in betrayal. Alex had everything prepared for a cyber attack that would show everyone in the club who Travis really was and where his money came from. It was a risky, dirty plan, but I had no choice. In a world where even those closest to you can betray you, morality takes a back seat. Reddit comments, Neon Vegas Dreamer. Whoa, $80,000 in 3 weeks? That's insane. You know what they say, Vegas isn't where you find yourself, it's where you lose yourself. I hope you find a way to make him understand what he's done. Darknet Wizard. Alex is a real genius if he managed to get access to the cameras. But be careful with hacking stuff. This could lead to even bigger problems. I feel for you, man. Fighting for your family deserves respect. Silent Watcher 91. Jake, your story cuts deep. The pain of betrayal, especially from family, doesn't just go away. I can't imagine watching your brother waste family money while your mom barely scrapes by. Wishing you the strength to see this through. I'll never forget that night when everything was supposed to fall into place. Alex and I stood in the corner of the crowded Euphoria nightclub, where Travis was undoubtedly spending his night in the company of fake friends and even faker luxury. The club glowed with neon lights, and the pounding bass matched the racing of my heart. This place seemed to have a life of its own, but for me, it was just another illusion. Beautiful on the outside, hollow on the inside. Travis was at one of the best tables in the club, surrounded by people nodding eagerly at everything he said. He had his arms around two women whose glittering dresses suggested they weren't there for the conversation. A massive 5-liter bottle of Dom Perignon sat on the table, and I couldn't help but imagine how our mother would break down if she saw what her hard-earned money was being wasted on. I checked my watch. 11:45 p.m. In 10 minutes, Alex was set to trigger our special operation. We knew the moment of reckoning was close, but inside me, a storm of emotions raged. My mind kept asking questions. Was this right? Did I have the right to publicly humiliate my own brother, even after everything he'd done? These were heavy, painful thoughts that tore me in two. I had always wanted to be the older brother who protected and supported, not the one who plotted revenge. But then I remembered Mom. I remembered her, hunched over that table in our kitchen, her face looking 10 years older because of a single betrayal. My anger flared up again, sweeping away any doubts. I had to do this for her. For $80,000, for our family, for everything we'd lost. 11:55. Alex gave me the nod, signaling that everything was ready. His laptop screen glowed with lines of code I didn't understand, but that were about to change this night forever. We had put together a video showing scenes of Travis wasting Mom's money on luxury, tossing hundreds of dollars to women, and ordering the most expensive cocktails in Vegas. The final frame showed Mom, sitting at home, crying in our old San Diego house, with the words, "Is it worth breaking the heart of the one who loves you the most?" 11:58. The video was set to stream on all the big screens in the club. I could hardly breathe. The tension was unbearable. And then, the moment of truth arrived. Reddit comments, Vegas Insider 777. Wow, this is a serious plan. Seeing a video like that play in a club will be jaw-dropping. I hope your brother feels every bit of shame he deserves. Family Bonds Breaker. This sounds like real revenge in action. But be careful, man. Plans like this often have unexpected consequences. Still, I admire the guts it took to go through with this. Heart of Steel 23. I'm moved by how you described your doubts before going through with the plan. I know how hard it is to deal with family betrayal. Maybe this will bring you some peace.